on the formula in a freer way that allows you to know you will always pay attention to what you're doing. You will always ask why you believe what you believe, and you will always check yourself to make sure you're remaining true and within integrity to your core vibration, your essential self. So treat those phrases more lightly, and you don't have to necessarily feel so impeded by them to be yourself and feel joy in your life and be a creative, imaginative being who is more than capable of following the formula and experiencing the ease and flow of how your life will unfold in a more natural way.
And this next question says, if people always follow their excitement, the dishes will never get washed, the laundry will never get done, and the garbage will never be picked up. How is society supposed to function like that?
That's a perfect example right there of somebody assuming that those things can never be exciting. They are having a negative definition of those things because they are believing that those things have to be negative. Nothing could be further from the truth. There are many individuals who enjoy washing the dishes because as the water, the warm water flows over their hands and they are meditating on washing the dishes, it is like falling into a meditation, which they actually enjoy. And some individuals can use that to give themselves a break, to take a moment of pause and just do something physically simple that allows them to feel more organized, allows them to feel that things are cleaner, allows them to feel in a more meditative state, a relaxed state, doing something simple as they may gaze out the window and look at the neighborhood around them while they are doing that. You have to be very, very aware of when you yourself are making an assumption that certain things are automatically negative when they don't have to be. So all of those things can still be done, and people can also invent new ways of doing those things if it is true that none of them actually is representative of their passion. You've already invented things like machinery to wash dishes and so on and so forth, machinery to collect and process the idea of waste in a more automated way. So that's also part of you being imaginative and creative and inventive enough to do that, but cannot come from the assumption that those things are automatically negative, because assuming that they are isn't what serves you, because there are people who actually find those endeavors to be relaxing, exciting, meditative, so on and so forth, for a variety of different reasons. So the first step is not to assume that those things are negative just because you have chosen to experience them that way.
Okay, and this person is saying, I need help finding my highest passion.
One moment. We're going to add something else to that last question.
Okay.
You have to understand also that sometimes the people that do things in society, like collect the garbage, as you say, are providing a service to humanity. So it's all about understanding some of these things also, doing laundry, collecting garbage, as doing service to a family, service to humanity, service to groups. The assumption that those things are automatically negative blocks individuals from understanding that being willing to do those things is actually providing a service for certain individuals. And service to humanity is how you allow yourself to find your center in many cases.
In
Please.
fact, aren't we hardwired in the sense that being of service raises our vibration? It's one of the highest endeavors, in a sense, that you can
Yes.
offer in your reality. And you see this quite often in the early in teachings of many
Yes.
different perspectives that
Yes. But we are getting ahead of ourselves because this issue will be one of the steps coming up in the near future.
Okay.
We will address it then.
All righty. So this person is having trouble finding their highest passion, and people seem to progress in life, getting married, having kids, buying houses, buying cars, following their interests and traveling. I feel my life isn't moving anywhere. I am at the same place in life that I was 6 years ago. I know it may not be 100% true as I have grown at work. However, the other aspects of my life have not progressed. Now, when I meet my friends who have moved on in life, I feel I am missing out and I wonder what my purpose really is. I feel low at times, wondering if my spiritual practices are helping at all. That is this individual's experience right now.
Yes. Well, there's two things that we can address about this immediately. Number one is what we have always said, is that the idea of your passion doesn't have to be big things, so to speak. Doesn't have to be a career, doesn't have to be a large-scale project. At any given moment, you have a number of options available to you that are everyday things. Just always choose the one first that has more exciting, more attractiveness to it, more curiosity to it than any other choice, and do that first. And continue to do that as you unfold. Sometimes things will come along that will synchronistically be opportunities to do bigger things, bigger versions of acting on your excitement, but it isn't necessary that that happens. Because again, as long as you are always choosing what is more exciting than anything else, even on a simple level, then you are following the formula and you are having a life of following your passion. Again, passion doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be jumping up and down with your hair on fire or doing monumental things. But the idea in general is that this person is doing something where they're comparing themselves to other people, which you never should do. Because the idea is you are a unique individual. And what may feel like an expansion to someone won't necessarily feel like an expansion to you. So you have to get in touch with the fact that in talking about doing spiritual practices, that these spiritual practices include the idea of actually acting physically on the things that are representative of having more excitement than any other choice in them. Because many times people on your planet, when they talk about doing spiritual practices, are simply doing things for themselves and not for others in terms of sharing their gifts. They're not examining what they could be doing in service to humanity that is representative of being of service. A lot of times the idea of acting on your passion means you are giving something to someone else. You are actually expressing a gift that other people will find necessary to receive in their lives. So while it's all well and good that you feel you are growing at work, and that should be a signal to you of what we're talking about, because growing at work means you are doing something that is helping other people. You are being of service in the job that you do for the other people also doing similar jobs in the same business. So that should be your first clue that in order to expand your life in other areas, you also need to be doing things that are serving other people. If you have gifts to share, share them. If you need to write a book, write it. If you need to do a piece of art, do it. If you need to compose a piece of music, do it. The idea is that if you're holding your gifts back, if you're not acting on those things outwardly in service to humanity to give them things they may be waiting for you to give them, then that's why your life is not expanding, because you're not actually taking the action on the things that would be the gifts that you have to share with humanity. So take a cue from the fact that you have grown at work, doing something that helps other people, and incorporate that attitude and that behavior in the rest of your life by doing the things you are passionate to do.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
This person is asking, if I experience a situation that I don't like and I don't have the time or opportunity to immediately explore the beliefs that led to this situation, what would you recommend as a permission slip or a tool to learn a routine to switch realities faster? What can I immediately do in my mind to become more aware and learn the habit of perceiving this reality as not preferred by me and switching to a reality that I do prefer?
All right. Let's go back to the first sentence in that question. Read it again and then stop.
If I experience a situation that I don't like and I don't have the time or opportunity
Stop. This is avoidance of looking at your belief system. Make the time. Make the opportunity. You are not making the time to look at your belief systems. You're not creating an opportunity within your schedule Keeping so busy that you can't do that is an avoidance mechanism. Because if you start relaxing into yourself and not be in such a hurry to be busy with everything that prevents you from having the time, then you are avoiding the issue of looking at the beliefs, and that's what you need to do in order to change the beliefs in a way that would allow you to experience more of what you prefer. So you have to stop avoiding doing the process of examining your beliefs to let go of the ones that don't work for you. Make the time, create the opportunity. That's the most important thing you could do when that issue comes up of a belief or a situation or a reflection that you don't prefer. So you have to incorporate the ability into your schedule of having the time to do that. Otherwise, again, you're not following the formula. You're not allowing yourself to have the opportunity to look at those things for one reason or another. That's usually fear-based. So take the time. There's nothing to be afraid of in having the time to examine those things. You're not going to miss anything else. You can allow synchronicity to be the organizing principle that will allow you to accomplish what you need to accomplish without assuming that you have to be so busy that you cannot look within yourself or take the time to do so.
Thank you.
Yes.
How can we find grounding in a reality we don't believe in? Despite being unified in oneness and having visitors showing me multiple amazing tools daily, everything here still feels like part of the collective, but ultimately meaningless. I'm completely abandoning the 3D. How do we engage with this tangible reality that feels more like a waiting room? Additionally, how will things transform following the arrival of your people?
This goes back to what we have said. Get engaged. Get engaged in service in some way, shape, or form to humanity. Then it won't feel like a waiting room. If you're waiting around, then you are misunderstanding the whole point of why you chose to be here in physical reality and have this experience. So stop waiting, start doing, start engaging, start being of service in some way, shape, or form, start helping. Now, again, the idea is whatever people do with the help you share is their business and not yours. But you have to do the act. You have to take the action that is necessary for you to represent what kind of a world you prefer to live in. Because if you did live in that world, you would be doing the things that we're talking about. You would be engaging. You would be being of service. You would be taking action in those ways. So the idea is not to abandon what you call 3D. The idea is to remember that you chose to be having this experience, and you need to remember why. And it was for the purpose of aiding and assisting in the evolution of humanity by being of service in positive ways, so you can function as a living example of what other people can also choose for themselves should they decide to do so. So stop sitting on the sidelines and get engaged.
Thank you. Is the human mind capable of
One moment.
nonlinear?
One moment. Individuals listening to this transmission may notice a little bit of a difference in the energy that we are putting out in these answers. We are encouraging more strongly the idea of taking action, of really taking action on these steps and all of the things that we are discussing that are involved in the questions that come up about these steps. Because we are underscoring and underlining the importance now of actually acting on the steps that are necessary for you to really bring about the vibrational frequency, if you so desire it, of open contact and alignment with the interstellar alliance. So, you will feel this energy being a little bit more, a little bit stronger in terms of encouraging you and urging you to take these steps. It doesn't mean you are being forced to do anything. It means that we are now not holding back in transmitting to you the energy frequency of commitment to the idea of taking steps of being aware enough, being responsible enough, being bold enough to stand your ground, be yourself, and actually take the physical actions and steps necessary to demonstrate what you have long said you are committed to demonstrating. It's not about sitting on the sidelines anymore. If you're really going to follow along in these steps and take the actions necessary for open contact, what we're doing by changing our frequency here is we are making this more physically real for you and underscoring how real the physical actions need to be, how necessary they are for you to really align with this vibration and let go of all the things that are not of the frequency of open contact and alignment with the interstellar alliance. So take no offense at what you may perceive as a more intensified delivery of this information. It's still up to you and still in your hands. You are free to choose with your free will whether to participate and to what degree to participate in these steps. But that doesn't mean we're going to hold back in underscoring how important it is to really stand your ground and actually take the physical actions necessary to demonstrate the commitment to understanding how the formula works. Because now it's time to walk your talk. So, please go on to the next question.
Yes. Is the human mind capable of nonlinear thinking?
Yes. But it has to be in balance with linear thinking as long as you are deciding to have a physical experience. So yes, you can think nonlinearly, multidimensionally, simultaneously, with incorporating that knowledge and awareness into the idea of whatever is necessary as a linear expression of it in your physical reality, so it will be applicable to your physical lives. So you can do both. You can balance it out.
And is reading always better than watching educational digital content?
No, it's up to you as to how to absorb information. But it depends upon how you do that, how you absorb that. For some people, reading may be easier for them to absorb the information. For others, it may be more the digital content. It still all comes back down to what we have said about the idea of story structure being built into your psyche. So if the digital content and the books that you're reading are all structured in a way to deliver the information according to the harmonic points of story structure, then you will absorb the information. So it's not so much about the medium, it's about the way the information is delivered that makes the difference in how you retain it, how you absorb it, and how you apply it from that point forward.
Okay. And this person wants to know, how can I maintain a steady flow of income without repeatedly finding myself struggling to pay rent after indulging in purchases that excite me?
Well, you have to pay attention as to whether indulging in those purchases is actually representative of excitement or anxiety. So you have to have more deep and honest self-investigation to be able to tell the difference between anxiety and excitement. Because if you feel that you are, as you say, strapping yourself in some way, shape, or form by spending more than you have, then that may be an indication not so much of the belief that you will attract what you need, but the idea that there is a sense of lack within you. So you have to pay attention to why you are doing what you are doing, for what reasons are you spending the money that you're spending. At the same time, again, please do remember that we have discussed that there are different forms of abundance, and allowing all of them to be equal, not just having money stand out as to be the only way things can be done, but all of them being equal to one another, then you can relax the idea of what it is you may think you need at any given moment. That will then allow that to synchronistically come into your life in whatever form the abundance needs to be there to allow you to continue to act on your passion. But again, fundamentally, you have to really examine whether you are purchasing the things you are purchasing because they are truly representative of your excitement, that you truly need them in your life, or whether you are just making an assumption based on anxiety and disguising it as excitement so you don't have to pay attention to the real reason you may be purchasing those things. So just be honest with yourself in your self-examination.
Okay, and this next question is, can you please give some examples of what limiting beliefs a person may hold that is causing them to hold excess fat on their body?
Well, this goes back, now again, not the only reason, but this goes back to one of the typical euphemisms that your language provides, in the fact that you may be, quote unquote, waiting around to do what it is you need to be doing, that you're not flowing your energy outward in giving gifts, in sharing things, in doing what you're passionate about, in being of service to humanity. And therefore the energy builds up because it's not got anywhere to go. And it turns into matter, because energy, matter are different sides of the same thing. So when you are waiting to do what it is you need to be doing to express yourself fully, to follow your passion fully, then that can turn into mass and add weight to your system physically.
And how might that apply to people as they age? Not that all people gain weight, but seems like a large percentage of the population gains weight as they get older.
Well, again, many individuals in your population have been waiting for a long time to do what it is they are truly passionate about doing, to be their true selves. And the longer they wait, the more weight they may gain, because the idea of aging starts to imply in their belief system that it now may be too late for them to actually take those actions, and therefore that adds more weighting, and therefore that adds more weight.
Okay. And what do you know about people who are addicted to substances such as alcohol, weed, and cigarettes?
Addictions are usually an attempt to do one of two things. They feel an emptiness within themselves, and therefore they are using external substances to attempt to fill what they feel is a void within their spirit, within their soul. Or they are using those substances to numb the feeling so they don't have to pay attention to it. In both cases, in a sense, it's an avoidance of really looking within the self and understanding how to fill what they determine is a void within themselves, what they believe to be something missing from themselves, about the idea of their worth, their value, their deservability. All these things prevent them from feeling their connection to source, from feeling their self-empowerment. And therefore they try to fill what becomes experienced as an emptiness, as a void, with something externally which will never work, or they try to numb it with those same substances so they don't have to pay attention to it, and then be afraid of looking within themselves, because they are afraid that looking within themselves, they might find out that the emptiness they feel is actually their true state, that's actually true about them, that they're worthless, that they're undeserving, so on and so forth. There is nothing to be afraid of, and people can be assisted and guided to looking within themselves without worrying that the idea of their negative beliefs about themselves are actually going to ultimately be true. Because if that were true, you wouldn't exist, because everyone is worthy by the fact of their existence. But different people have to be guided in different ways to find that out, to realize that truth about themselves. So it will depend upon the kind of person, the kind of beliefs they have, the reasons they're holding on to those beliefs. Sometimes they hold on to those beliefs also because they get attention that way. And if they felt undeserving of attention on their own, they will do things like put themselves in dire circumstances and dire situations where their very physical life is threatened, so that other people will start paying attention to them. And so in that sense, it may also work for them. But the idea is that, of course, that never ultimately works. They have to give themselves the love, and they have to give themselves the attention, and they have to allow themselves to know that that void that they feel is not really a void. It is just a belief system that they have about themselves that is not in alignment with who they truly are.
So when an individual allows themselves to feel happy, to feel their connection to source,
Yes.
When they allow this, that automatically shifts them out of the state that you're describing, where they feel an emptiness or a loneliness and they seek out external things to fill that.
Yes, because again, external things aren't real. We understand that physical reality seems very solid to you, but it's not. It's an illusion. And therefore, those things have no real substance to them. So what you're doing is you're feeding yourself, in a sense, a diet of illusions when you are addicted to things that really have no substance. It's nothing more than a reflection or a play act saying, I feel empty, I feel undeserving, I feel unworthy, I feel that I have no soul, no solid connection to anything in creation. So all you're doing is demonstrating that by taking these illusionary props and assuming that they're actually the things that you need to repair yourself, or that you need to numb yourself so you don't have to pay attention to it. Remember, physical reality isn't real. So even though you create a physical reaction to these substances, you're actually doing that yourself. You're deteriorating yourself by yourself. You are diminishing your energy and you are making disconnections to physical reality on your own. It's just that those kinds of substances become negative permission slips that you can say, it's not my fault, I'm doing these things, and these things are doing it to me. It's all an illusion. It's all a play act.
So
But
what I'm
it's
saying
based
to
on the idea of a negative sense of self instead of a positive one.
So the idea is that that is creating a permission slip to allow you to bypass the negative beliefs that are keeping you from feeling the connection that you
Yes.
naturally have to source. And that's when a permission slip becomes a negative
Yes.
thing, when you rely on that to put you in that state instead of realizing that you have the ability to choose that state and not
Yes.
buy into the negative beliefs that are diminishing your energy and keeping you feeling
Yes.
isolated.
Yes, because the fundamental vibrational frequency of addiction is that a person feels like they have no choice. And that's a choice they're making. But they don't know that because it doesn't feel that way. So they have to understand the paradox that having an experience of feeling like you have no choice is a choice. And once they understand that, they can break through it, if they desire to.
So, like in the situation where a person comes into this life with a theme of an eating disorder, like an anorexia or bulimia, from a very young age, is there a special reason why someone would choose that?
Well, yes, again, there can be. Again, please remember, there are as many reasons as there are people. Now, some of them fall into collective categories, yes, and can be generally similar, yes. The idea sometimes why a soul would choose that is not even so much for their own soul's growth, although it always does help because it can accelerate whatever a person might be willing to learn in physical reality by having an experience like that and transforming it relatively rapidly in the period of a lifetime. As far as the soul is concerned, that's a brief period. But the idea is that it also helps other people learn how to have compassion and start relating to people like that to figure out what's going on within them. And that helps society as well understand why they may be creating certain things that they are creating that they may not actually prefer to be experiencing. So sometimes a soul will choose that, not even for themselves so much as for what it will do to help society learn and grow in more compassionate ways. So again, you have to take it on a case-by-case basis.
And in this example, the person is saying that the older brother has a disability due to a genetic condition and he can't speak or walk. I'm interested in exploring the spiritual significance of individuals with disabilities in the physical world. Can you provide
Yes.
some insight on this?
Same answer. What are you learning that you otherwise wouldn't have learned had your brother's condition been normal? Are there different ways you now have to learn to communicate with someone who cannot speak? Are there different things you are learning about assisting someone who cannot walk? How do these things symbolize issues within yourself, your family, and society in terms of learning to see things in a different light, learn to do things in a different way, to have compassion and understanding and creative imaginations strong enough and broad enough to figure out how can we allow these people to be valuable members of society, and what are we learning from them we otherwise wouldn't learn by what they have chosen to experience in this way. These are the first questions that need to be asked in relation to dealing with someone with those kinds of conditions. What are we learning? How is this serving humanity? How is it serving society that this soul chose to have what appear to be these limitations, and it's forcing us to look for new ways, different ways to think outside the box, as you say, to interact with them and engage them and admit them into society, because they are helping society expand and improve the ways in which we communicate, we act, we deal with other people that are different from ourselves, so on and so forth.
Okay. And what is the difference between self-realization and enlightenment?
Not so much. You have to be self-realized to be enlightened, and you have to be enlightened to be self-realized. It's basically two sides of the same coin of being your true self and being awake and aware in the idea that you are creating your reality and that you have the freedom to choose what experience you have of that, and taking the responsibility, not in a negative way, but in the ability to respond for all the things you experience, because you know you are your own universe, and yet you are interacting with other facets of it in whatever way, shape, or form serves humanity best, and serves everyone best, and serves all that is the best at being itself and experiencing itself in all the ways that it can. It is the understanding of that that promotes enlightenment and awareness of self in terms of what it means to be the self.
And when our pets pass away, is their death experience the same as ours? Do they experience a waking up? Do they have a life review? Does their energy, their soul hang out with us? How can we connect with our pets who have passed?
Think of them, feel the love you have for them. They will feel it, they will pick it up. They don't have exactly the same kind of process of transitioning back into spirit. The idea of a life review is not exactly what it is for a human. The idea is that they may see or experience flashes of experiences that they experienced with their family in physical reality, but it's not so much a review as it is a recognition of the reason they were attracted to be with that family, so that it is reinforced, it is strengthened, and allows them to continue to interact with that family from spirit in a new and different way. So when you know that they are willing and capable of still continuing to interact with you from spirit, think of them, feel the love you have for them. They will feel it, they will pick it up, and they do sometimes interact with people in a variety of ways, even though you may not completely perceive it to be so. But you can hone your senses, you can feel and know when they are there for you. They can also be off doing other things. But the idea is that, of course, in spirit, they are more expanded. They may not be exactly the idea of the pet or the family member as an animal that you experienced in that limited way, but they do still contain that. They are bigger than that, just like you are bigger than that when you are in spirit. But nevertheless, they are keenly and constantly aware of the connections that they have with you, and are more than willing to engage with you when you hone your senses and are capable of perceiving that they are doing so. So send them love, think of them, they will pick it up, and they will respond. It's up to you to have the senses that are keen enough to know when those responses are coming to you.
Many people experience a thing where they have a dream about their pet, and the pet is like still alive, and it's telling them, I'm fine, you know?
Yes.
Um, how can and that can be very reassuring, especially if you lose a loved pet. how can you generate an experience like that? Or can you communicate with your pet and ask them, please come in my dream and tell me how you are, or
Yes,
something
you
like that?
can. But again, the idea is to communicate through imagery because that's more representative of a telepathic bond. Just see them doing it. Just see yourself interacting with them in your imagination, in your mind's eye. Visualize the idea of the interaction. Put it out there with feeling. Feel what that would be like to have that interaction that you picture. So use pictures and feelings. That's the strongest way to communicate with them. And sometimes when you have those dreams, even though your pet may still be alive, the idea is that your animal is also telling you that they exist like you do in spirit, and that physical reality is simply a part of them and a temporary thing. But that your natural state is spirit. You never really leave it, and neither do they.
Okay, thanks. And what happens to a person who commits suicide? Does his soul experience something different from someone who experiences death at an old age?
Well, slightly. It can depend on the reasons for it. And the idea is that more often than not, it represents that there might be, shall we say, unfinished business, that they sort of cut their agreement short. So, nevertheless, they are wrapped in unconditional love. They are given an opportunity to assess why they made those choices, what was going on in the personality as a physical being that allowed them to feel they had no other choice. At the same time, they are still capable of having the choice as to how to finish the agreement. Because they made an agreement, the agreement must be followed through with. Now, how they follow through with it is up to them. They're still given the freedom to decide whether they want to experience the idea of another incarnation to play it out, whether they want to simply pursue following through with that in spirit or in another reality, in another dimension, in another civilization, as an incarnation or not. But the idea is that once you create a momentum by making an agreement to experience certain themes, you will in some way, shape, or form need to finish that because a momentum and inertia has been created and the momentum will carry you forward. But you can wait a while, you can reassess, you don't have to do it right away. You're not automatically pulled back into physical reality or anything like that. You are given an opportunity to discuss with your guides, with counsels, with anyone helping you, your soul family, to discuss what you got out of it, what you are learning, and what you want to do about completing the agreement in some way, shape, or form. You may complete it in a different way altogether, but you will choose ultimately to complete it because you're the one that initiated it from a particular perspective that it was important to do so for your soul's growth. And as a soul, once again, you will not abandon that reason. So you'll play it out in some way, shape, or form, but you're given more than enough opportunity to make the decision as to how to do that while you are wrapped in unconditional love and assisted by your guides and your soul family.
And how can the formula help you if you're going through the grieving experience?
Well, again, it's all right to momentarily experience the grief, missing something, missing someone that was in your life physically. But the longer that lasts, the more you actually prevent yourself from feeling the connection that is still there to the person, even though they're now back in spirit. So grief can ultimately be a block to communication because you are still experiencing your relationship to them as something that's lost, something that's missing. So we understand that in the moment, grief can be something that will simply allow you to come to terms with the idea that something has changed in your relationship with them. That's fine. That's what the grief is for. It's giving you an opportunity to examine yourself and your relationship with that person so that you can come to terms with the fact that something has changed. But now you have to get to a point where you realize that you're now dealing in a relationship with them where they are more than what they were. So you can now start to experience it with joy and congratulations that they have expanded back into their natural state, that they are experiencing unconditional love in their experience, that they are sending you that unconditional love, and they are urging you and encouraging you to reach out into spirit to know that they're all right and to know that that relationship will always exist no matter what is going on with them, because that's always going to be a piece of them. and it is always going to be important for their soul's growth to have had that relationship in physical reality with you. So grief ultimately needs to transform and gives you the opportunity to transform the idea of your relationship to them by letting go of the belief systems that you've lost something, that something is missing, and starting to reconnect to them in a bigger, larger, more expanded, more loving way.
Okay, and can you give your perspective on teachings that talk about waking up from this world and returning to God? There seems to be an idea out there that this is a world of ego and suffering, and that we are going to eventually wake up from this world and return to God, and then stay in that love forever. How does this reconcile with ideas of us being eternal creators who continue to learn and grow and explore forever? Is that just some negative part of our ego wanting that?
In some senses, yes. The idea is that if you have experienced a lot of, shall we say, of the tough school, the challenging school, and in a way where you experience the effort of transforming and overcoming negative and fear-based beliefs, then yes, you are longing for relief, you are longing for rest, and that's okay, and you can have that. But the idea is that once you go back into spirit and are wrapped in unconditional love and have had a chance to process and rest from the experience you chose to have in physical reality, whether positive or negative, it is now the soul's prerogative to understand that it doesn't want to remain at rest. It wants to move forward. It wants to grow. It wants to go with the flow of creation. And therefore, it will choose something, whatever that may be, again, to have an experience that will allow the soul to grow. So that never ends. But you are given an opportunity, as you say, to quote unquote, go back to God. And what that basically means is, yes, you can take a break, you can take a rest, you can have a soul vacation in order to allow yourself to process what you went through, to absorb it, to grow from it, and to determine from those lessons what it is you would next like to do that will allow your soul to continue to expand and to grow. Because once you are a soul, you can feel that urge much more strongly, that there is an actual inertia and a momentum to expand. And therefore, you will ultimately choose to continue to have another experience that will allow you to expand. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to incarnate back on Earth or anything like that. It's up to you. But you will choose to grow and expand because that's the nature of existence, is to be all that it is. And that never ends. So that growth, that expansion doesn't necessarily have to continue to be felt in a suffering way, in a way that tires you out, but you will choose to grow and expand after you have taken a break if you feel that a break is necessary. You are always allowed to move at your own pace. That is comfortable for you. You may forget that when you're in physical reality because of the nature of your belief system in physical reality that may make things seem to be too urgent. But once you are back in spirit, you will fall back into your natural flow, your natural pace, and you will take whatever amount of timelessness is necessary for you to decide, yes, I'm now excited to expand and move forward again in some way, shape, or form, and you will make the appropriate choice at that time.
And if we are only ever the person that we are now, like you say, and never become anyone else, how can we continue to evolve and have new experiences after the person that we are dies and the lifetime is over?
Well, this person is assuming that physical personality is something that in some way, shape, or form is all you are. So you will always continue to expand and grow and have different experiences, as I just described, in some way, shape, or form. And again, you can create an experience of reincarnation to appear to be a different person, but the idea is that it's just the way that your consciousness starts looking from a higher level through different eyes that all exist at the same time. So it's just a matter of changing the focus of what you are as a consciousness to have these different experiences that all exist simultaneously. So you will use that ability to grow and expand, but the person that you're looking through the eyes of, just to use that particular euphemism, that remains that person, but it doesn't mean you can't have an experience of being a different person, because in a sense, the person that you are familiar with, that you are now, is not who you are anyway. It's still eyes that you're looking through, and you have decided to look through other eyes, and you will decide to look through other eyes, and therefore it's just a matter of focusing your consciousness in a way that gives you different experiences that allow you to grow, even though you are taking advantage of a structure that already exists. We know
And
that that
so,
explanation can be a little bit confusing, but nevertheless, that's the best we can do with your language.
actually, that's very helpful.
All right.
If all the parallel realities already exist and we never make changes to the structure, does it mean that the realities with pain and suffering will always be experienced by some part of consciousness?
Yes, nothing ever goes away. But again, you have to understand there are different ways to experience that concept. So there are many different ways to experience it. Sometimes you have experienced it in the way that you might call negatively. And yes, that's always a choice. It's always there. It's always part of the structure. So yes, the opportunity always exists. It has to, because some souls actually choose that for their own growth.
Okay, we have some ET questions I think I'll ask here. Could you explain why Sasani clothing is blue? What kind of clothes do people wear in Willa's society?
We have never said that all Sasani clothing is blue. I may have described some of the things I was wearing as blue at the time, but not all Sasani clothing is blue. We're not sure why you understood it that way. Nevertheless, there is a variety of color in Sasani clothing. A lot of it is similar, a lot of it is form-fitting, a lot of it serves many different functions, and we actually have said in the past that it can change color, and it can actually change its function, because it is a kind of nanotechnological suit that can become many things, including becoming a spacesuit. So it's not always the same color, and it's not always performing the same function. That's a misunderstanding. If we were not clear about that, we apologize.
So it almost
Now,
sounds
in
like
Willa's time, the clothing is a variety of things. Mostly, it is always very comfortable. It is relatively loose-fitting in many cases, although, again, there are exceptions based on the functionality of what it is that people choose to wear. But by Willa's time, a lot of people will simply wear what they're comfortable wearing. Sometimes even what might be considered to be a mix of older fashion styles and styles that may come from other planets as well.
And are there other members of your family that are currently being channeled through other people on Earth right now?
There are other members of the Sasani society that are being channeled, no other members of my family, except now and then you have heard my father come through on rare occasions.
Do you have siblings?
Yes, I have a sister that is engaged in the idea of the creation of the birthing villages that crop up now and then to allow Sasani children to be born.
Anybody else?
There are others. It is not time for me to talk about them.
Okay. And why is it that you're in a parallel reality 500 light years from Sirius and not just 500 light years from Sirius constellation?
No, you have misunderstood what we have said. We are in a parallel reality. Our solar system is about, if you were to overlap the realities, 500 light years in the direction of the Orion constellation from Earth. We have never said we are 500 light years away from Sirius. We are 500 light years away from Earth in the direction of the Orion constellation, not in the direction of Sirius.
And for those beings from other races, Pleiadian, for example, that have incarnated as a human in order to support humanity, what will they do after they leave the human body? Will they re-embody and rejoin their original family in the Pleiadian sense?
Well, some of them may, some of them may not. It's up to them, isn't it? You're
Mhm.
asking that question, whoever is asking it, as if there is simply one way for them to do things. They can decide what they will do next. Some of them may continue their Pleiadian journey. Some of them may continue a human journey on Earth. Some of them may go elsewhere. It's up to the individual to decide what is best for their soul.
Okay, and there is a symbol known as the flower of life, and it's been used by a number of different cultures. Can you
Yes.
tell us anything about this symbol? Is there any hidden meaning, and what could we learn from this symbol?
Yes. The symbol is a shorthand representation of the idea we have discussed of the double Fibonacci spiral overlapping one another in opposite directions, and bringing out the idea of the nodal points where the lines cross that represent the different states of energy and matter that form what you understand to be the physical and non-physical multiverse. So it's a shorthand symbol that represents the underlying structure, energetically speaking, in terms of a consciousness pattern of how all matter and energy is presented in the multiverse.
Okay. And do the Giza pyramids line up with Orion, and also do they line up with Cygnus, since that was where the Anunnaki originated?
The three main pyramids on the Giza Plateau do have some alignment with the idea of Orion and the three stars in the belt. They do not line up with Cygnus. And remember, these things were created long after the Anunnaki were gone. So there is no indication in the three pyramids of the idea of the Anunnaki's connection with Cygnus. It is not representative of that. It is representative of the Orion connection.
Okay. And you have described how crop circles on Earth are higher level communication with Gaia. Do phenomenon like crop circles occur on Essassani and other worlds? And how do they differ from those on Earth? And how do you relate to them?
They do in different ways and can actually form in different substances. The idea is that it can be experienced, as on our world and on some other worlds, as a very playful interaction with certain interdimensional levels of consciousness that communicate by making alterations in the electromagnetic energy of certain physical substances in physical reality. But they don't have to all appear in crops. Some of them can appear in water, some of them can appear in ice, some of them can even appear in solid matter, some of them can appear in the air. So it just depends on how the vibrational resonance of the civilization creates a medium for those interdimensional consciousnesses to be capable of projecting their communicational symbols. On Earth, it is used in crops because that is one of the natural ways you have of relating to the idea of Earth and the elementals is in the things that supply sustenance to you as a human being. And so it's the easiest way to get your attention. It's the easiest medium to manipulate because you have an intimate relationship with the idea of crops because they feed you.
Hmm. And can you explain your role with the Ascended Masters? Are you working with them?
Yes, in many cases, we have actually mentioned this before, where in transmitting to your collective consciousness, we always also go through the different archetypal levels, which includes the Ascended Masters, in order to make sure that the information we are sharing with all of you does not in any way, shape, or form intervene or spoil the surprises you have created for yourself to discover. So yes, we are always working with them to determine the best way in which to deliver information that serves humanity best.
And is there a symbol we can meditate on to improve our sense of self-confidence?
You would have to examine the beliefs about why you are confident that you have no confidence. So allow yourself to understand there is no such thing as a lack of confidence, but you can be very confident that you have no confidence. So see the symbol of the yin yang, the paradox, that there is both sides blending together, creating what appear to be opposite ideas, but they're still part of one thing, and each contains a part of the other. Paradox. Just think paradox. When you think anything like that is lacking, I lack trust, I lack confidence, I lack power, understand from the point of paradox. The symbol, whatever symbol you like that represents paradox, be it the yin-yang symbol or even just the letter P, capital P for paradox. Allow yourself to focus on that and understand the paradox in what you are saying. When you think you have little confidence or no confidence, remember you're confident about that. When you think you have no trust, you lack trust, you are trusting that idea. When you think you have no self-empowerment, no power at all, you're using your power and control to create that experience of lack of empowerment. So think of it in terms of paradox. Whatever symbol or letter represents paradox to you, to put you back in the center, in the neutral space between what appear to be two opposing ideas.
And how can we tell we're living in a split parallel reality dimension? You've spoken about it being like looking through glass. How do we know we're looking at a split reality or that we're not actually part of that reality?
You know it by when you follow the formula and you experience different things than other people are experiencing that may even seem almost impossible or contradictory to experience in a reality like what they're creating. You know by your own experience of what you are attracting into your life that you are existing in a different vibrational reality than they are.
Okay. And lastly, this person says, when I started listening to your transmissions, I was attracted to the crystal skull session as well as the sacred circuitry session. What is the connection between these two topics, and how can I best utilize this connection for contact?
The sacred circuits are representative of the idea of changing the neural pathways in your brain to be more capable of receiving higher frequency energy. The crystalline matrix, the molecular makeup of the crystal skulls, is a kind of representation of this idea that they have certain pathways within them, molecularly speaking, in the crystalline formation that allows them to collect and absorb and retain and transmit information that is in alignment with the rearrangements you have made of the neural net in your brain by following the sacred circuits, which make you a better antenna to receive the kind of higher frequency information that is stored in the skulls.
Okay, thank you.
You are welcome. So we thank you for these interactions, for allowing us to share these perspectives. And again, we encourage you to take the actions and the steps, if you're willing, to be able to align with open contact, to give others a chance to do so as well, to recognize the difference between theory and what has gone beyond theory because of your own research. Take the time to do so. Take the time to recognize when something has gone over the border from theory to fact. Even if it's still anecdotal, you can allow yourself to know the difference. But in this context, obviously, we are talking about the idea of contact with ETs, such as ourselves, with other interdimensional beings. But all of this comes down to having more contact within yourselves and with each other. Being a reflection of the idea of the interstellar alliance in your own reality. Mirroring that vibration, that energy. So, our unconditional love to you all, and we give you over now to the remainder of this transmission. Go into whatever receptive state, meditative state, relaxed state you so desire, you so prefer. And we encourage you, as always, to breathe and breathe and breathe. We would suggest at this time that you all allow yourselves to get into a relaxed position, to breathe deeply and easily. And as